What's up guys, it is Steady. In today's video I want to talk about setting your HDR up in Far Cry 6, whether you're on the PlayStation 5, the PC like I am, or the Xbox Series X. The default settings, well, to be honest, they just suck. Alright guys, so when you look around here, the graphics in this game are really good. Everything is completely maxed out here with my RTX 3080 and Ryzen 3950X. And when you're looking around the sky here, you're looking at the vegetation, it all looks good enough, right? It's nice and sharp, the detail is wonderful, but it's when you start looking at light sources that things don't look quite so right. So the default settings are 600 nits peak brightness for HDR10 and 200 paper white. This just looks bizarre. Look at the sun here. When's the last time you looked up at the sun during the day, unless it was a really late sunset, and it looked like a perfect circle, and it wasn't blinding you, and it had these almost hair-like sun rays coming off of it? This just looks completely wrong. So what we're going to do to fix this is we're going to go to System, Options, Video, Color, Brightness. So again, HDR10. These are the standard settings when you load up the game, 600, 200 as I said. A lot of people now, what they'll think is, okay, I have an LG C10 or an LG C1, peak brightness is around 750 to maybe, if you're lucky, 800 nits. So what I'll do is I'll just set HDR peak brightness to 800 and I'll leave HDR paper white at 200. Well, if you do that, it still doesn't look right. Look at it. It's a perfect circle and it's not blinding you. That is not how the sun should look. That is not how this HDR should look. So we go back into the system settings and we're gonna fix this. Now, I spent countless hours, literally probably 2 or 3 hours, so I guess I shouldn't say countless, but 2 or 3 hours setting up the graphics in this game and messing with HDR10. That's quite a long time. And I've settled on these particular settings for my LG C1, like I said, running on PC. I think 1800 HDR peak brightness and HDR paper white at 180 looks good. Now let's take a look at the sun. Again, the sun should be blinding. It should be bright and blinding. And bam, here we are. The sun no longer looks like this perfect sphere with these strange little rays coming off it. Now you have great impact with the sun. The sun rays are penetrating and bright. The light glistening off the barrel of the gun here looks correct, as you can see there. And we're not experiencing any clipping. If you can look here at the sand where the light from the sun is directly reflecting, and you still see all the divots and detail in the sand. You still see all the detail in these cresting waves here in the white part. And the game just looks absolutely stunning on PC. I imagine it looks good on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 as well. But like I said, this is running with max settings on the RTX 3080. Let's take a look really quick. Video. So 120 FPS, full screen. So all these graphical settings, texture, shadows, geometry, environment, water, terrain, volumetric fog, all Ultra HD texture pack is downloaded and installed. Maximum anti-aliasing. I don't have motion blur on because I don't like motion blur. But otherwise, camera shakes on, poison and drunk effects, whatever, that's on. Direct X or DXR reflections, DXR shadows. These really tax your GPU. Those are both on. FidelityFX cast is on to add a little bit of contrast enhancement and sharpening, specifically when you're using anti-aliasing TAA. Anti-aliasing TAA can sometimes soften the image. The FidelityFX helps to sharpen it back up. We saw my HDR settings under brightness, again 1800 and 180. And then if you go to advanced settings, this is the bread and butter here. This is where it's at. FSR mode, FidelityFX Super Resolution 1.0. Enable this option for a performance boost. When enabled, images are rendered in lower resolution and then upscale with techniques to provide results very close to the original resolution. So think DLSS, but this is AMD's offering and it's called FidelityFX Super Resolution 1.0 and it works really well, even on an NVIDIA GPU here. I can't tell really much of a difference between native 4K and then FSR mode ultra quality. So if you read for FSR mode here, it says ultra quality mode produces an image with quality virtually indistinguishable from native rendering. Like I said, I can tell a little bit of a difference, but it's very close. So let's take a look here. Take a look at this rock wall. You see the detail is pretty sharp. pretty crisp, pretty clean. Again, this is FSR, ultra quality. I'm getting consistently between 80 and 90 FPS with FSR mode ultra, sometimes close to 90. Here, 94, 97. So that's pretty good. So again, we took note of the wall and how sharp it is. Let's go to native 4K and we'll see a pretty big hit on my FPS performance. Video, advanced settings, let's turn this off. So we are now in native 4K without any upscaling from AI. And do you see much of a difference? I think it's just slightly cleaner and slightly sharper. But look at my FPS now, 64. So I dropped a solid 20-ish, maybe 25 FPS with minimal gain in graphics. I mean, you can tell when it's native 4K here, you look at the leaves on these branches, they're a little bit sharper as opposed to FidelityFX, but it's such a small difference. So I would definitely recommend that you go with max settings. If you have a 3080, 3090, even a 3070, I'd go with max graphical settings in 4K, and then I would recommend using FidelityFX Super Resolution Ultra Quality. Now, if I were to go to balanced, let's take a look at my FPS after that. So now look at me, I'm getting not much of a boost over Ultra. Honestly, I'm still getting in the 80s. And the image doesn't look that bad, but you look at the leaves up here, it looks a little bit muddy. Definitely not as sharp as native 4K or Ultra, and you can see it a little bit in this rock wall. But again, not that bad, not that bad. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to share my HDR settings with this game. I wanted to talk about the FidelityFX Super Resolution option in this game because it does wonders to preserve your frame rates while also presenting you with a high quality image. In this game, I mean, let's just go back really quick to ultra quality. This game looks absolutely stunning on PC on an LG C1. The textures, especially with the HD texture pack, are super sharp. Look at these leaves. The HDR looks great. Again, our sun now looks correct and bright, as it should. Look at the textures on this bunker. You see the volumetric sunlight coming through right here. The vegetation reacting realistically to the wind. Are you kidding me? When you combine the HDR performance of LG OLED with its perfect contrast, and keep in mind, guys, the image you're seeing here is in game optimizer mode, and it's been completely calibrated by CalMan, and the end results of the calibration were really good. I have a 0.7 grayscale delta error and a 0.7 color delta error, which basically means the auto cal from CalMan for game optimizer preset resulted in a reference level calibration. So I am really happy with what I'm seeing here from this game. So anyway, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. As always, I will get back to you. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Peace.